Hello folks, you're very welcome back to the Real Talks podcast. This week I had the pleasure to sit down with Michael Fennelly, an 8-time All-Ireland winner with Kilkenny. Under the management of Brian Cody, the Cats have become one of the most respected and consistent teams in the history of the GAA. So it was fascinating to get an insight into the culture of the group, as well as that individual mentality that Mick has needed to survive and thrive in a high-performance culture. Over the last number of episodes, a lot of the conversation has been around the relationship between sport and mind. But this week, the 2011 Hurler of the Year was incredibly honest about the impact his love of hurling has had on his body and the many challenges he has had to overcome. More recently, he's changed jobs, started lecturing, studied leadership, and began his journey into the entrepreneurial world. There is zero doubt that Michael Fennelly is much more than just a hurler. Before we get going, a special shout out to the Gaelic Players Association's Former Players event, which is taking place in Croke Park on September the 16th. More than 500 legends of our games come together to recognise the incredible contribution they've made to both Irish society and sport. This series is all about showing you the more human side, the people that played our games, and I look forward to bringing you many more in the coming weeks. Lastly, this podcast is supported by Coach Finder, a unique service set up by Michael Fennelly and Anthony Cunningham to match GAA clubs with the right manager, coach, psychologist or strength and conditioning coach for them. You can check out their website at www.coachfinder.club. That's www.coachfinder.club for more information. My name is Alan O'Mara and you are listening to episode 12 of the Real Talks podcast.
Here comes Henry Shefflin from the line ball once again. Inside towards Richie Hogan. Trying to steal a march on the defence. Fetting it inside. Fennelly! Michael Fennelly! His first ever championship goal. What a time to get it. 35 minutes into the contest. And it's won 7-4 points. And it came from the line ball. And it's delighted the huge throng of Kilkenny fans who've come up here to see their team win back the Liam McCarthy Cup if they can. Played beautifully in, wonderful fluent move, fantastic shot by Fennelly.
First of all, just to say thanks for doing this and taking the time. I know you're a busy man, which we'll talk about as we go through this. Lots of different balls going on at the minute and juggling them, which is part and parcel of the life of an inter-county player, I suppose. I was going to start off just by asking, it's probably the quietest August you've had in a while in terms of inter-county hurling. I suppose just how have you found that, or how has that been for you?
Yeah, it's not only August, it was most of July as well, unfortunately. I think we got knocked out the start of July. So people say it's a break, but I've been rehabbing since last August, looking for games. That went on for 8 months of training on my own and doing running and trying to get that Achilles back up to where it needs to be. And that was a slog for those 8 months. Had one or two small setbacks with the other Achilles as well, being aggravated due to compensation. Hamstring as well, obviously, like muscles are not working the way they should be during that whole process. So that was a tough time, and again it was fine. I had plenty of support and from the players and from the management and the physios, and that was really important. But obviously my championship this year was 2 games within a week. So it was Limerick on a Saturday, and the following Saturday we're playing Waterford, and that was it. So that was it took a few weeks to really get over, to be honest. Sure. Maybe if I was 7-8 years younger, maybe look grand, go off and do a few bits and pieces, go off for a holiday, whatever. But I didn't do anything. Started working back on Coach Finder, doing a few bits and pieces. But no, there wasn't much fun in it now. It wasn't a time off, wasn't a break. I didn't want it. Yeah. But that's just the way it goes. We've been very fortunate that we've never been knocked out that early before in my 11 years. I think in 2013 we were knocked out maybe the end of July, start of August against Cork. I suppose we were going maybe for 6-7 years of that, about 7 years at that stage, 7-8 years at that stage without actually, and always getting to another final. So maybe back then it wasn't as bad, but this year definitely my years are limited. So you take every game; it's very precious at the moment.
Yeah, I suppose, like, obviously when any team or any player gets knocked out of the championship, it obviously is a very frustrating time, and you probably do a bit of soul search and you look in the mirror. But I suppose from listening to you there, it sounds like it was that little bit more frustrating because you've had to invest so much time and energy just to get back in the first place. Did that weigh on your mind that little bit more then over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I suppose, I knew myself that this year would be difficult in terms of coming back anyway, and would I play or not, or, would I be fit enough, or would I be back to the same level I was the year previous. So there was probably a lot of questions like that being asked, and unfortunately I hadn't much hurling done either, which was another kind of concern and another bit of stress really too, because obviously if you're going into one of those big games, you want to have a bit of confidence and a bit of hurling done too. So look, that was it was soul searching maybe, but it was just disappointment really, and I didn't play well in the Waterford game, to be honest, so that made it worse. Sometimes I don't mind losing as bad, but if I play really bad, that's what really aggravates me, and unfortunately that day didn't go too well for me. Obviously we got a draw out of the game and we got to extra time, but I think we were always chasing that game. Unfortunately we made some mistakes, and enough of us didn't play to our standards, and it was our own fault, I suppose, our own doing. But Waterford are a good team. We've had massive battles over the last couple of years with them, semi-finals over the last number of years. We drew them about 2 years ago as well, I think, maybe in a quarter, even before a quarter final round, I think. So big games, and look, definitely deserved winners so far.
What's it like from the individual perspective in terms of having maybe not had the full season behind you, Joe, in terms of you feel sharp, or maybe you feel like you've got the money in the bank, for the want of a better phrase? Is it difficult when you're sort of who's back in for championship, or do you enjoy that aspect of it? John again, that it's a difficult balance sometimes to get.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like sometimes you could be training there for months and things are going great, and come game day then it doesn't work for you. It doesn't happen. You play bad. And for myself over the last number of years, just with injury and back injuries and Achilles and ankle injuries, I've been out for a long number of months. And I'm probably coming into games probably with little game time, little running, little fitness. But I suppose for me, I'm focusing on I better not maybe be taken off here in the first 20 minutes. So it's more
mini targets within the game.
Mini targets, yeah. So I'm focusing on just getting on the ball. I need to get on the ball as quick as I can, because as the game goes on, and if I'm not on it, I probably will be whipped off because look, he's probably not fit enough. Maybe he's not up to it. So it's funny how your mind changes, your mindset changes. Whereas if I was training all for the last maybe 2 months, training really, really well, going well in training, look, full of confidence. Yeah, this game now I should be flying, and next thing that doesn't happen. So I've seen that over the years with players as well. And even maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I did get a good run for maybe 4 or 5 weeks of hurling, and I was hurling really well, and people are saying to me, God, you're flying it. And I was trying to, I didn't think I was going that well, but came the championship for one of those games, I was flat, and I was like, God above, I'm better off just maybe not training for a few weeks and just going out and playing. Yeah. So it's funny how your mindset changes, and maybe you focus on one or two smaller things, just about getting on the ball, and you take out everything else. And because yourself, for me, it's competition within that Kilkenny team that's been the key to our success for years, and we need that back in the team again. And if you're concentrating on your performance only and try and get that, and maybe having a bit of fear of actually being taken off, I think that's a good thing, to be honest, because it keeps you on your toes and it keeps you hurling. I remember All-Ireland final in 2011. I would have got a few man of the match awards previous to that. Coming into that game, I remember the first half I couldn't get on the ball as much as I wanted to. Just the way the game was flowing midfield, it can flow that way. I remember saying to myself before half-time, saying, God above, I better do something here, or I'll be whipped off. And next thing then, I remember it's going on a run, and next thing kept running, and next thing the ball landed in my hand, bang, in the back of the net. So it's funny how things go. And I think actually Mulligan from Tyrone would have said something similar a good few years back when they played. I'm not sure it was at Dublin, maybe. They went around the backdoor system and they had a load of drawing games that year. I think maybe it was against Dublin, and he said to himself, he looked over to the sideline, he saw someone maybe coming on, he said, I better do something here. Got the ball, passed about 3 players and buried in the back, bang in the back of the net.
And played forevermore.
That's it, and had a massive year to go on. So it's funny how the margins are so tight, and it's from success and failure. Like it's such a small line, and you can either fall on one side or the other side.
With that, I suppose the stage you're at now in terms of that experience, especially over the last couple of weeks, where's your mindset at? Are you reflecting back on previous campaigns, trying to draw from them, or are you sort of more focused on, do you know what, I want to go back next year and give it a go?
Yeah, after the Waterford game, I had a small issue with my knee, and it wasn't going away for a few days, so I got an old scan on it. And normally my knees have been fine for years, and I had bony bruising on it, and so I was like, right, look, we'll rest that for a few weeks, and which is not ideal, obviously, because I want to get back into club training. But then it still wasn't settling, so I went to the surgeon, and he looked at it and he said, look, let's maybe let's do a bit of keyhole, have a look in and make sure there's nothing there. And there was a bit of cartilage damage on it, and there was a lot of bony bruising on the outer side of the knee. So that was a bit of a setback again. And I was just thinking, God, is this, what am I doing here? Like it's from the Achilles injury, from maybe aggravating the other one, and now my knees seem to be coming at me a small bit. But look, a lot of players go through them. Shefflin went through these huge injuries too in his career, and is still playing at club level. So I'm coming around now better. When you get 2 or 3 weeks under the belt, have a bit of training, a bit of rehab, you're feeling better about yourself. So for me, I'm just looking towards the club, getting back for championship, and we'll see how the championship goes for the club. I deep down I want to be there next year without a shadow of a doubt. But if I pick up a serious injury over the winter, I have to really reevaluate things for my health. I've gone through a lot of injuries over the last number of years, but now I think if these bigger ones are coming at me, that's when the real problem arises. So we'll see how the winter goes. I hope to God I will be there next year, but I don't want to be going through another year of injuries. And again, it's a distraction for the team. Maybe they don't want to be there. Am I going to be ready for games? Not training again. If I was a player and I saw another player like that the whole time, God, you nearly say, would he be better off maybe just walking away, and just let us get on with our maybe a year maybe. So it can be a distraction too. So I'm mindful of that as well.
Yeah, the injuries was a question I was going to come to a bit later on, but you've touched upon it there, so we might just sort of explore that a little bit more, because I think as I was reading up over the last couple of days in your own career, look, injuries are part and parcel of it, and when you put in so much time and energy with training, with games, it's just a risk that very few get lucky with and don't have to deal with. I suppose the initial one that was really holding you back would have been that it was chronic back pain, was it?
Yeah.
I suppose how frustrating was that in terms of the back? Because I know sometimes if it's a leg, or you can sort of get specific treatment on the back, can be a bit more.
Oh God, the back's a nightmare. I think it was Cora Staunton who actually mentioned something there lately. She had a back injury as well, and she said again she couldn't do anything. And
it's a really frustrating one.
Yeah, and I could relate to her as well. This year I haven't been too bad with the back because, to be honest, I haven't been training. So it's when I start training, I think, and get into that intensity and those hits and the knocks and a lot of running maybe in the harder ground in summer. April seems to really be the time that seems to come at me. And whatever that is, it's a joints. I have an arthritis condition which is not helping the whole situation. So there's a lot of things like that. Like biomechanically, my body's probably not great either, to be honest. So some people are unlucky. That's why some people had to maybe retire injury from hip injuries and different things, because biomechanically, just a body is not made the way it's a normal person is maybe. So something like that can actually catch you out, and unfortunately, you might have to actually step away from sport. But thankfully, I've been able to keep going, and I've been able to get through it. But the back injury is definitely. I remember, I think it was. What year was it now? Maybe 2013, maybe. I think, maybe 14. 14 was actually when it really came at me. It was lower back kind of pain, and it was very unusual. And I felt it coming at me maybe around March, April, and I kind of just kept going with it. I said, yeah, it's kind of tightening up. It's an unusual feeling, and I felt maybe I was unstable in terms of my lower back. And then if I ran into a player, I'd probably just collapse on the ground because I felt I had no strength or no stability there. And I think it was an Offaly game as centre forward. I remember I played that game. And I played it, and I knew I wasn't anywhere near right, but thankfully Offaly won at their best that day, and we won that game well. But about 15 minutes to go, I was saying to him, just don't hit off me, because if you hit off me, I'm going to fall to the ground. The game was well over, but we're beaten by about 30 points, and I think Brian just put up his hand and see the one to come off, and I said, yeah, I'm going to come off here straight away. And I knew straight away, look, this is not good. Even going down to bending down to rise the ball, I was in trouble. My back was kind of just locking up or something. So went away, tried to see what this was about, what was going on, went on medication and saw specialists and tried different bits and pieces. And I used to just set off kind of like a few spasms. The muscles start getting kind of forming spasms as well down that end. So that was causing more trouble, and it was just triggering off. So eventually, after 2 weeks of maybe 3 spasms, and try on different things, I just had to stop maybe for a few weeks and just try and let it settle and still talk to people maybe and see what we could do. And that was very frustrating, because I didn't know when this thing was going to stop. Didn't know when actually I'd be back hurling. Will I be back hurling? So there was a lot of doubts there, and I was very stressed at the time. And I'd say I lost about 10 kg in a space of 6 weeks, which is unheard of. Like, that's the bones of nearly 2 stone. I'd say nearly close to 2 stone. So eventually got on this medication. This medication began to work, helped with nerves maybe in terms of pain, referring pain up to the brain. So it kind of stopped that pain coming up, which again is not the most ideal thing when you talk about it that way. But again, it stopped the pain for me, and I was able to get back to do a bit of running and a bit of training. But I could do absolutely nothing. Not swimming, walking was actually even a struggle.
Completely inhibited.
Inhibited completely. And as I said, I was not sleeping right. I was a lot stressed, and and not hungry, I suppose, then as well. And just my body obviously was in a bad state, and losing that amount of weight in the summer. I think it was in maybe just bones of July at that stage nearly.
And was that from not eating, or what?
No, that was just from stress.
Right, okay.
Pure body was just mind. Everything was just, I didn't know what was going on, I suppose. And I remember I was just constantly tired, not sleeping. Obviously not knowing, I suppose, when I'll be back playing, will I be back playing? But eventually, as I said, it did stop, and I got back then, thankfully, for the Limerick game, a semi-final, where the lads threw me in half forward and did all right, thank God. But again, that was a big risk, I suppose, for the management to be putting me in there. I was down a mountain of weight. But again, my head was kind of getting in a better position. And as I said before, sometimes when your head is right, your body will go with you. You don't have to be massively fit or massively strong at times. If your head is right, you can get through games. It's not ideal.
I was just going to ask.
It's not ideal, because obviously then you're putting your body under more stress, and inter-county hurling has gone so intense, it's gone so high, the tackles, the running, the sprints, everything's increasing. So going into those games, you do need that conditioning under your body. You need those weeks and months of conditioning. So you can get away with that once or twice maybe, but to be doing it constantly is definitely is a no.
In terms of how serious that was, and obviously how probably frightening that must have been in some way, shape or form. If you try and take your head back to that space at the time, have you stopped to realise how much is going on with your body here, or are you just thinking I need to get back for the next game?
At the time now, I was just, I knew games were going on in that, but and we were winning, thank God. So we would have had a break from the Leinster final to the semi-final, about 6 weeks. So I knew there was a bit of time there that was with me. But at the same time, no, I think I was just hoping this thing would just stop and just get back to a bit of walking and get back to a bit of jogging, and because I would have tried that a few times to get running, and next thing it was set off every time, and every time it set off, it was just it just knocked me back about 10 steps every time, mentally and physically. So that was tough, and again, no one could really understand what was going on. And maybe some people might thought maybe I was stressed maybe at the time. Obviously I was stressed because of what was happening, but lower back pain can be associated with stress. So and again, from strength and conditioning, I'd be very aware of that, but it wasn't stress that brought that on. It was other stuff going on with the body. So but yeah, it was a bad old time, and unfortunately then the following year it would have kicked off again, and I knew the medication was there, so that medication would start me out. But unfortunately 2 weeks after I was taking medication, it actually set off again. So then I was out for another number of weeks, got injections, cortisone injections, steroid injections to try and settle it as well. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work. So again, body was going through a lot of rough stuff, and you're keeping faith the whole time. But again, when something doesn't work, you are knocked back. It's like as if someone has hit you a good punch and you're knocked down, you're flat out on the ground, and you don't know what's the next step. And that's where management and that's where the doctors and the physios came in. And look, mentally they would have helped me out in terms of dealing with all that kind of stuff, and trying to stay positive. And I'd be a positive person anyway, even though with all those setbacks, you'd still be quite positive. Look, things move on, things will go on. I'll be all right, I'll get back again. So yeah, that's key, because if you're not going to be positive, you may just step away from it altogether.
Yeah, one of the things that I was always struck by with yourself was obviously there's huge trust there from the team and the management, willing just to put you back into a big game when maybe you hadn't got the block of work that others guys had got done. But trying to understand it from a little bit more from the player's perspective, Johnny, you're going out there, is there doubts in your head when you're going out to play a game like that, or are you just going out knowing, because it's a very, I'm trying to get a better sense of what's going through your mind, say talking out there for an All-Ireland semi-final, having missed a serious block of work.
Yeah, so I'm completely focused on myself, for those games. So it's just me. I don't care about anything else, because I know, I need to perform here. They are trusting me to play. They are trusting me to start. So I need to perform. So everything in my head is just, as I said, getting on that ball and really getting on as quick as possible, because and it's better sometimes that way, because it makes you get into the game quicker maybe. And I wasn't going to be afraid of making mistakes. It's like, look, if I make mistakes, I'll be taken off. Look, that's it. At least I tried. At least I got stuck in. But if I go through a game or maybe half an hour of not touching the ball and just kind of going through the motions, well, then I don't deserve to be there, and I would be taken off, and that'd be a big disappointment for me if I was. Sometimes I think about that, maybe letting people down, maybe as well, for not getting stuck in. So a lot of time it was kind of high pressure situations, but I was just going to empty the tank in those first 15-20 minutes and see what happens. And again, my fitness, those 15 minutes are very intense. They're tough. again, my fitness levels, I would have maybe at some stage looked at the line saying, God, I need to be taken off here because I'm wrecked. But I seem to recover quickly enough as the game goes on. I seem to actually get better. I seem to actually improve in terms of my fitness, and I get that second wind. And when I get that, then actually I can come stronger into a game. So that happens numerous times in games. I remember playing Limerick back in maybe it's 13 again, when we went through the backdoor system. And again, I actually had a bad ankle injury that year for 3 months, and literally about 2 weeks later I played against Limerick, and I remember thinking, exact same thing, and get on the ball. But I remember my legs for the first 10 minutes, they were heavy, the weight, the lactic acid was just firing up my legs, and I was like, God, I'm not going to last this game, but just kept ticking over, kept going. And a lot of the players obviously would have been training. Like that day our team didn't play well, and here was me coming in after 3 months of not training. But just, it's a mental thing really. And I suppose saying yourself, just get stuck in, because within 15 or 20 minutes or 25 minutes you could be gone. And that's the way I looked at things. So it's kind of a high risk maybe. And maybe when you focus on something small, I won't say small, but just a narrow kind of a focus like that, maybe it can maybe help you a lot more. And injuries sometimes, it can be a good thing. It takes you, in one sense, it takes your mind off the game. Maybe it keeps your mind off the nerves for the game and what's the whole occasion. So you're more focused on yourself, maybe. So it's funny how it can actually work in your favour on some occasions. Other times, then you could worry so much about injury that you miss the game. If you have a hamstring kind of tightness, you're worried about will it go or not, and then you miss the game. So it can work both ways. It's a funny one. Mentally, it's
a really different it's a really interesting dynamic, and that's why I was sort of trying to. Because you'd speak to some guys, and they would say they need a good full league campaign under them to go into the summer and really play. Whereas some guys, and you're one of those guys, seem to be able to just not just produce. Because the one question I was going to ask you was around, those like during those months of the injuries and the slogs and the gym time on your own in the morning, in the evening. Like, I think a lot of people watching games on the telly or go to games, they probably have no concept of that. They probably don't get what it takes. So, for example, people see you, say, playing an All-Ireland final and going, he's just back, like, isn't it great for him? But I think it's important to note and to really, like, the volume of energy and time that would have gone in just to get to that. I suppose one of the things that was sort of interesting asking is, what's the big driver in your own head when you're doing those lonely mornings or those gym sessions by yourself or with someone one-on-one? What's the thing that's keeping the fire in the belly there? Because, like, I don't think anyone would argue that by far the easiest option is to say, feck this, so I'm out of here, like my body's had enough. What keeps you going?
Yeah, it's a good question. In around the winter time, at times you do ask yourself,
I know,
what are you doing? This is tough. This is cold. It's icy. It's hailstones. And you're in the muck and that, and you could be coughing up blood maybe at the start, especially pre-season. Like, it's a tough time for training and that. This year in particular for me, obviously I was coming back from Achilles, so every session I was, I'd be getting better. I'd be running, I'd learn how to walk again, learn how to jog and all that. So these were all baby steps, and my God, and every time I see a bit of progress or a bit of progression, I'd be so happy leaving the training field. So that year was a bit different for me because, I needed to get back running anyway. Like, that's life for health and that. So I need to get back into normal fitness. But again, just I suppose from last year's defeat in the All-Ireland final, and trying to get back up, as I said, my years are precious at this stage now, and trying to get back up to those heights again, and playing in Croke Park and not even Croke Park, maybe other places too, where you have big Nolan Park, Thurles, huge crowds, people backing you, people shouting, supporting you, and I've met so many people this year, in particular 2017, on the streets, and kind words, text messages about great to see you back, and hope the injury's coming on okay, and just really genuine people, and that I love that. And again, you maybe feel that you owe them something as well, maybe. But what drives me, I suppose, is this thing doesn't last forever. You get an opportunity to play in front of these crowds. You get an opportunity to play for Kilkenny. You get an opportunity to play with those team members, with some of the greats of Henry Shefflin's and JJ Delaney and Tommy Walsh. So these great hurlers where you can learn from. Like, you're in an environment there that people would love to be in. So it's very unique. And when it's over, I'd say it's probably desperate, maybe, I'd say, in one sense. Like, during the league campaign this year, I would have been in the stand for every game. I wasn't even with the players. With a good few injuries, so there's probably 2 or 3 of us together the whole time in the stand, and just looking in, like, saying, God, you have an opportunity to get back out there again. And that's when you realise, everyone would love to say, God, give me a game out there. The atmosphere, the environment, the hype, the intensity, the hits, everything like that. So that does open your eyes, to be honest, when you actually step back from it and where you can't play. And then you're like, I need to get back there. Whereas in some times during the season where you're training a lot, you're like saying, God, give me a break for a week or 2. It's funny how it goes, And sometimes you do need to step back and actually have a look at it from the outside and say, yeah, look, God, this is great where we are, the environment we're in, and playing for Kilkenny. So that's why I always drive around. I'm quite ambitious as well. we won all Ireland's, but I never look at the past, to be honest. Look at the future, look at, work on the present, look to the future, and trying to win as much as I can, I suppose, and do as much as I can. I don't want to be saying years to come, God, I retired too early maybe, or I didn't put in that effort, or if I do this, I don't want to have any regrets really, I suppose. And that's really important. So, and we have a great environment. Brian Cody would have set up a great culture, a great environment, and that's the foundations to our success really. Without that, I've no doubt people would have been distracted by other things. They mightn't have been as ambitious. They mightn't have been as ground-footed. And I'd say we wouldn't have won half the things, to be honest. You can have you could have an all-star team there, but if they're not all, feet firmly on the ground, all not singing off the same hymn sheet, working together, not getting ahead of yourselves. That happens in a lot of teams over the years. So I think he's set up that structure, that environment, that culture. That's key to success. And then it's about the players, and I suppose coming together and whether you're good enough or not.
One of the things, and I said I will move this conversation on from hurling shortly, but one of the things I always found really interesting watching Kenny from the outside was that there seems to be a natural apprenticeship you have to serve when you come on the panel. And even I was looking up yourself yesterday, and there was the 2 or 3 years where you're coming on, maybe you get a start, you're not playing the next day, and it made me think about other counties, because sometimes people take the short-term attitude, and it's, if there's a great young lad, just fire him in there, play him every week. And sometimes that fella ends up being burned out by the time he's 23, 24, 25. I was just interested what you thought of that sort of, one, how you feel about your apprenticeship looking back, and if you think that sort of served yourself, or even if it serves other people in the long term.
Yeah, it really depends on the team. So back then we had a really, really strong panel.
Yeah.
We had a strong panel of 35 players plus another 10, I'd say, that could have been actually in on the panel. So back then, that structure, that system worked well for Kilkenny, because it was a physical game. We had a big team, we had a strong team, and a lot of us were 20, 21 years of age who were good hurlers and who had potential to come up. But obviously there was better hurlers there ahead of us.
You'd come through on what? You'd won an All-Ireland minor. Was it
minor
21?
Yeah. So they 3 years.
3 in the 4 years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of boys trying to come through.
Yeah, well, I think we had maybe 7 off our minor. Sorry, no, let me see. We had 7 off our 21 team on the panel. The year previous to that, there would have been maybe another 7 or 8 lads. There could have been maybe a crossover of players still, but the year previous to that, then again, there's probably 9 or 10 players. So there was there was a huge amount of players coming through that time. For Kilkenny, there was a conveyor belt, as some people would have elicited to that back then, of huge talent. And again, talent can come and go, and people can, moving on to senior is a big step. My God, from minor to 21 to senior is just it's 4 or 5 steps. It's not one step, because the physicality, the intensity, the speed, the fitness, everything. And I would have struggled with fit. I would have been quite fit when I was younger, but definitely just midfield around that time. I remember 10-15 minutes into the game, again, I would have been thinking, how can I survive this? This is crazy.
I'd have to agree. So the jump up is just huge.
And it takes time to get used to that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you have 1 or 2 players who can actually maybe make that jump.
Yeah.
They're special players who are especially talented, may not have the fitness, but their hurling might get them through actually maybe those games. So back then, that system for us, I suppose, it worked because we had so much talent there, and it was frustrating. We probably had players who probably did move on, to be honest, who probably could have hurled for Kilkenny. If they'd been with another county, they would have been stars of that county, because they were serious calibre hurlers. I remember looking, there's 15 of us on the sideline for us, and I was looking around, I was like, my God, that team could go out and give that other team maybe a really good game. That's how competitive we were back then. And 4 years in, I was on and off the team. I had a bad break of my skate fight in 2008, where I was actually playing league games, playing really well, happy with my performance.
That happened with the club, was it?
Happened with the club, yeah. It was a bad challenge. I got a shoulder, actually, a bad shoulder into the chest, but my hand came in front of me, and that caught that and broke it badly. So I had to get an operation. I actually waited 2 or 3 weeks with a cast on it. It didn't heal, so I had to get a screw into it 3 months. I came to final, I togged out. Thankfully, got to tog out, but I could only hit the ball on my left side, couldn't hit on my right. And I still hope maybe to get a run that day, because I had trained a few sessions. But unfortunately, there was only 1 or 2 people who got brought on that day, which is unfortunate looking back. There could have been easy another 3 players that come brought in, especially with the scoreline against Waterford that day. 2007, I would have played in the All-Ireland final. At half time, he came on and said, Henry done his cruciate. Again, I was very happy with my performance. So things were looking up, but maybe my consistency, Martin Fogarty said to me, I'm not consistent enough maybe in training, and maybe he was right in some cases, but in other cases I thought like, look, yeah, give the fella maybe a chance, give him a run maybe and see. But we had so much competition and so much to juggle from. And Michael Rice would have been playing the forwards around those couple of years, and he would have been a midfielder with me at 21, and I would have seen him as a really good midfielder. And at times I wondered, why isn't he midfield, because he's and I said, thank God he's not, because he would have been challenged with me again, as well as Derek Ling. Cha Fitz then came out around 2009 to play midfield with the club, scored about 7 or 8 points, and he was partnered up with me that day. I scored 1-1 or something, he got 7 points, so he then was seen as a midfielder maybe, and then he started playing very well, massive, real confident player as well. So we had about 4 or 5 lads going for 2 spots, and 2009 then came, played some league games. We had a really strong team for those league games. Like it was unusual to actually have Henry was playing, JJ, Tommy, everyone was playing, and as midfield for a lot of those games, played well, quite well. Even though the games were highly intense and they were tough, got about with the mumps then. That kept me out to play for about 2 months. And then we were playing Galway in about 2 or 3 weeks. And I was coming around to a bit of hurling. Cha had an injury, Derek Ling had an injury. I had an injury, but I was recovering from the mumps, but I was like, yeah, I'll put myself forward for this. And unfortunately that game didn't go too well for me. And I was basically, I think, not really looked upon then after that. Even though I was down training, I was down my own, I was doing this, doing that. I was actually hurling well. In the sessions, I actually was like, yeah, I'm actually going well here now. I might have got the better of Derek today or got the better of Cha. But I think my mind was made up maybe that Michael maybe is not good enough this year. So I kept plugging away, and I spoke to a few people that year, and I was getting disheartened. I was captain.
Do you question? Particularly, again, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but the time you're captain through the club's success, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that harder? Is that you can gloss over what you want, but in terms of the ego, in terms of being there, does that eat in at you more in terms of
that's hard.
Still not getting playing like?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say he deserved to play because you're captain. It's the captain can be a burden, to be honest, on players. I was 24, 25 maybe. I was about 25 maybe, 24, 25. I was still quite young at the time, and obviously I wasn't a regular player. Owen Reid actually he was my club mate at the time too. There was a load of us on the panel. He was next in line, he turned it down, came to me. Very difficult. I felt it very difficult to turn it down because you just never know what could happen. So I took it on anyway, and just it was a bit of a burden, obviously, and there was papers, I think, maybe with titles about the captain and invisible and bits and pieces, and I was avoiding that stuff, but I still would have got wind of it from people.
Still eating at you, like.
It was, and James McGarry was great that year for me, to be honest. He was our club manager that year with my father, and he would have rang me coming up to games maybe, or after a game that didn't come on, maybe he'd ring me in that. But that Leinster final that year, I was, again, I was hurling decent enough up to then because I knew I was captain. I knew I need to get. Hopefully, I'll get on that day. Maybe fingers crossed. I'll come on as a sub. But Cha Fitz was sub that day as well. So he wasn't even starting. So he got on ahead of me, and there was 5 subs that went on that day. And I remember sitting beside James Ryle, and I said, "Oh my God, what am I going to do here?" Because I'd be expected to say a speech maybe. Yeah. And I saw 1 or 2 people going out to Henry. Henry obviously was captain that day instead of me. And I saw 1 or 2 lads going out to more officials, like bringing him up, like, so I was like, okay, actually, maybe this is a good thing now. He can do it. But I still felt horribly anxious. Just people looking at me maybe. I know the subs were around probably looking at me too maybe, and they weren't saying that neither. So, and Henry just comes over, grabs me, goes, "You're captain, go up there and get the cup." And tried to be tracksuit on me and everything. Here he was trying to, he goes, "Take off your tracksuit quickly, will you?" So I took off my top. I think my bottoms was left on maybe. But that was probably one of the worst times in my life, I'd say. Going up making a speech, I could not, even to try and get a smile on my face was difficult. I was red in the face, and it's probably one of the most embarrassing times, I'd say. And people might think he's ungrateful maybe, and funnily enough, in 2007 we would have won the All-Ireland final club that year. Tom Coogan, club mate, he was captain that year, and he didn't get to come on that day, and that never resonated with me at all, that he didn't get to come on. And I saw Tom lift the cup, he said a great speech, and I said, God, Tom must be delighted. I never thought, I just thought he'd be delighted, and it was afterwards then actually maybe someone said, I think it sounded to me and said, yeah, he was really disappointed. People were saying, why didn't you bring him on, but it still didn't resonate with me actually, how the importance of coming on. I just thought maybe he's privileged to be obviously captain, but obviously just the penny dropped to me in 2009 when I had to do that, and I was just in a bad place. And again, we spoke to 1 or 2 lads about it, and they were saying, look, just keep going, and would have got 1 or 2 phone calls then leading up to the All-Ireland about maybe dropping the captaincy maybe from close people, and very close people who were saying, look, you're better off maybe just getting rid of this. And
was it feeling a burden on your shoulders?
It was a heavy burden, because we bet Waterford in semi-final, again it didn't come on, and I would have been throwing everything into the kitchen sink that time, and to be honest, I remember marking in some train sessions, like I was probably marked out, but Cha was in a great form that time. He was Mark and Derek Ling out, with Mark and Richie Mullally out, with Mark and Michael Rice out, with Michael Rice was hurling really well that year too. Like, so there's just, the lads were in great form, to be honest, and some days I'd play well too, but they were ahead of me, to be honest. But not coming on then obviously made it harder. And then in the final itself, then I remember just saying, right, we have 3 weeks to the final, 4 weeks. Again, would have spoke to James McGarry beforehand with a phone call, and he was saying, look, just throw everything at this. Just every session, just leave everything out there. And that's what I did. I said, look, I'm going to do everything I can here now. And if it's not good enough, it's not good enough, and we'll leave it at that. And I kind of made a decision to ring Henry to say, look, do you want the captaincy, or what do you want to do? And he said, look, you're the captain, it's yours. And so I actually had a speech kind of somewhere in my head, sorted 3 weeks beforehand. That was it. I was the captain. I was happy enough with it. Time, whatever happens. Yeah. And I was content with that. I was praying to God to come on. Like that day, I was just, on the sideline, and I was just, hoping. And the game was probably coming away from us. But we're never panicking. I don't think we ever panicked in that day. Funny enough, even though PJ Ryan was putting off unbelievable saves, and I was just like,
I was at that game that day. He was
unbelievable.
In the sticks.
They were flying. They were well on top in certain areas. Like Seamus Callan was unbelievable that day, and thankfully I got the call, and TJ Reid got the call, my clubmate at the time as well, and TJ would have been quite young at the time as well. He might have been 20 maybe, and the two was just, right, let's get in here quickly, and Brian said, just go out and hurl, go get the ball and go with it, like, and that was it. And thankfully got a point that day and hit 1 or 2 balls, but Jesus, great to get in, like, really was.
It must have been a huge sense of relief.
It was. Someone said to me, a fairy tale ending. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. No. It wasn't a fairy tale year by far, but I have to say, it really did make life so much easier for me. It made life so much easier for my family. They wouldn't have said much to me that year, I'd say. But I know they were there for me. They were they text and that, but they found it difficult, I suppose, to bring up to broach the subject, and I probably wasn't really talking about either. But definitely they were probably feeling a lot more pressure than I was, maybe because of newspaper things, of public talk. They would have been in that surrounding in the stadium as well, maybe, like, so they would have went through a lot maybe worse scenarios than I did. But it definitely it made life easier to go up and say the speech. We had that year they wanted no one coming in onto the field, and people broke in and stuff, like, so I have to say it was a great spectacle. I have to say it was in my sporting career, definitely probably was. It's one of the highs maybe, obviously, of lifting the cup and saying a speech and getting to come on. But that year could have been, if I didn't get to come on that year, I'd say I would have packed it in.
Would you?
I would definitely.
Because from listening to you, I wouldn't have known. I saw from a player, I would have thought about what that was like from your ego, from your pride, from your own mental state. But it obviously sounds like at the same time it actually turned out to be quite a character building year for you, and that, like, you took that the frustration, I suppose, and I mean, you really kick off from there, though. Is that fair to say?
Again, I was probably coming and going over those years. Like, I got man of the match in that 2007 All Ireland final with the club. There was different things like that happening, and I was going well at different times. Would have came on at half time in All Ireland 2007, played well, had a really strong league campaign. 2008 I was hurling really well. 2009 I had 1 or 2 hairy games, not great, but then I played against Cork and Tipperary, played really well in those games as well, in the league games, and then got about a mum. So things were, I was getting a lot of setbacks during those years, unfortunately, but I remember 2009 we're on the holidays afterwards, but actually I'd club kicking off straight away, obviously, and sometimes even in the shower after the Ireland final, I was thinking club action now next weekend, because I didn't get to hurl a whole lot maybe in those games, and that's for me, I need to show myself in those games. So we would have won the 4 in a row as well with our club during those 4 years from 06 to 09, which was important for me. So then we kept going that year to the All Ireland final. We got to the All Ireland Club All Ireland final in 2010, and we won that, and actually got a bad hamstring tear at grade 3 in that final. And so I was like, God above, now this is March, I've had no league games, and obviously back then we had a strong panel, so you need to be getting into the league to really to try and get into championship, because once you hold your place, once you get in there, you can maybe hold your place easier than actually to get in. That's the way I looked at it. So I was like, this is not good now. Out for another 4 or 5 weeks, but thankfully got a bit of hurling to me, got to start, and never looked back since, I suppose. But in 2009 on the holiday, I remember talking to Michael Kavanagh in the pool, and I was saying, I'm giving it 1 more year and that's it. And definitely, and he was kind of looking at me kind of, like, are you sure? Like, but I knew by him too, like, he was kind of, he knew my frustrations. I was on and off. He was playing since he was 19 years of age on the team. He didn't know what it was like. And we're talking to Noel Hickey in his last year with Kilkenny. He was sub, I think maybe it was 2014 maybe. He was maybe 12 or 14, I'm not sure which one it was, when Noel moved on. But I remember talking to Ballyhale after we won the All-Ireland and we're celebrating on the Tuesday night down there, and he said, this is no crack at all, being a sub. Like, he said, God, how'd you do it? And for those years, and I said, we did, a good few was put in, and I said I nearly packed it in too, to be honest. And like John Dalton, another exceptional hurler as well, like he would have moved on maybe quite early in his career too. I don't know, was he 27, 28, and he went aside. John Tennyson was unfortunate with a cruciate injury, which unfortunately he had to move on. Like, he was 06 centre back. People have seen him as the next centre back for the next 10 years. And through shoulder injuries and knee injuries, he got caught up. Brian Hogan was competing for that place too, and got in there too and held on to it. So huge competition. And if someone gets an injury, that could be that could be a good thing for you nearly to get in there. Obviously it's not great for the team or not great for that player, but sometimes like that, small things like that can actually get you in the team, and then you can hold your place. So it's a minefield, to be honest.
Yeah, like that's what I was just laughing there as we were talking about it, like, because even like so. Like from the news perspective, they look in, they think Kilkenny hurling great, they're thereabouts every year, loads of All-Irelands. But even just from the little conversation there, like, there's so many ups and downs in between, and twists and turns and spikes and troughs. And I suppose you've clearly had loads of good days and some really bad ones as well. I suppose just even like, I'm just thinking there, just talking like, what's life outside of hurling like as all this is going on? How are you managing that when that world is spiky like?
Yeah, it is spiky. Yeah, and look, we've been very fortunate for the success we've had. Like, over the years, like I know some players, same career as me, with 10 or 11 years, and they've no All-Ireland finals. I've won maybe, so very fortunate to have 8 All-Irelands. It's mad, and I don't really think about it now, to be honest. But maybe in years to come, I might reflect back and say, God, yeah, we were very fortunate to have done what we did. But life outside is all right. It's good. Obviously, there's an expectation of you when you play. Like, you've set a level now for yourself, so that probably brings extra pressures maybe on certain players, that like you have to try and reach to that potential every time, or reach to that standard. And if he goes small but underneath it, God, he wasn't great. Like TJ Reid would have been. TJ is exceptional hurler, like, and people are expecting him to dictate games every time now, like, which does add pressure.
Of course does, yeah.
And he nearly retired himself. Funnily enough, he nearly stepped away a number of years back as well, because he wasn't getting his place. And again, it's amazing how actually some players could have actually fell off the bandwagon, and Kilkenny team could be a lot more different over the last number of years. Might have had the same success, like, but again, it just shows how that them small things and small margins there can go one way or the other way so easily. But life outside is good. Obviously, hurling is a big part of my life, my family life, and it's the norm. It's not any different. One thing is frustrating, I suppose. You can't plan. We've been successful enough with our club too over the last couple of years, and we haven't won a whole lot. But we do normally get to maybe the end of October or so. But you might only have a few weeks off. I'd say the most I've ever had is maybe 4 weeks off for an off season. And that was, I remember we did 4 in a row, obviously, with Kilkenny from 06 to 09. We did the 4 in a row with the club the same years. So we went on to Leinster and maybe onwards again to Club All-Ireland. So not a hurling I was doing back then, and obviously college, a small bit of college at the time too, hurling. So it was constant, and I wouldn't have got much weights or gym programs in around that time, because we'd no off season. Like, we were hurling straight through the year. So that was, look, it was good. But definitely you do need an off season, I think, and whether it's playing a bit of soccer or playing golf or whatever, it's good to switch off. But like 4 weeks is not enough. You take 2 weeks off, probably physically and mentally, but then the last 2 weeks of that 4 week break, you're actually beginning to think about going back. So before you're even being called back, your actually mind is getting back to that way. You're minding yourself a lot more. I would have seen players back before 2010, over those 4 or 5, 6 years, they would have come back maybe a bit heavier. Body weight would have been heavier, obviously, higher body fat percentages, fitness terrible, and that was the norm. Now, you don't get to start from scratch anymore. Lads are back, and they're back with a bit of fitness. They're smart. They're not as overweight. Obviously, they'll have a small bit more weight in them, and obviously you do need to take a break and to chill out. But it's the mental thing, really. I think that you need to switch off, and it's difficult because teams are coming back earlier. There's more backroom teams now, there's more things going on, and you're looking for that extra edge yourself then as well. Like, so you're wondering, how can I get back on the team, or how can I get in there? What can we do to get back up to those levels again? Like, so you're always thinking about that too. But it's important to switch off and play a bit of golf, or go for a walk, or read a book. And I try and do a bit at times, because it's healthy and it's good for you, and it's good to step away from the hurling and try and refreshing the brain, I suppose.
Within a season that, particularly for yourself, where, so say that was those 4 years with the club where it was rolling one after the other and round we go again. Where is, like, what age are you? In your mid-20s, sort of, early 20s, mid-20s?
Yeah.
Like, is career on your radar there, or are you just happy enough working along because you want to hurl?
At that time, so it was a massive appetite to hurl and to win and to be successful and to play for Kilkenny and to play for Ballyhale. Career-wise, again, I kind of fell into my job at Ulster Bank, came out of college, got a job straight away, and I was in the bank. A lot of my friends and other college students in my year would have been working in restaurants and that.
Sure.
A lot of them had to emigrate because the jobs were actually, there was very little jobs. So I was very fortunate to have a job and I was working in a bank. And so I was actually happy enough working in Kilkenny, very little travel. I was hurling there obviously as well. So everything revolved around Kilkenny for me, and that was important. So I had a great structure to my day. The Pembroke Hotel there, John Ryan was great for me. He'd say, look, come in for your dinner every day. So in there, big dinner every single time. Didn't have to worry about where I'm going to get lunch. Again, I would have got a car as well, maybe a bit later on, 2011 again. So that was something, again, a bit of stability, looking after, not to be worrying about paying out for a car and all that kind of stuff. So them kind of things were helping. But I had a set up to my day, a process where I'd be eating a scone. I'd have my breakfast in the morning, I'd have a scone at 10 o'clock, I'd have my dinner in the Pembroke Hotel, I'd have a nutrition bar maybe at 3 o'clock and a yoghurt, and then I'd be having a sandwich in or something before training. So my day was just really structured and really regular. Right. And that helped because I knew where I was every day. I was in the office. I remember ringing up one of the water companies saying, look, we need a water tank in the office here where I am, because there's one upstairs. It's like, I'm not going upstairs every single day from now on. Let's get it in here, because I was drinking about 4 litres of water a day. So I wasn't out on the road a whole lot either. So for me, that worked really well for my hurling career. Even though it was a tough job, it was 9 to 5 and you are kind of stuck to the computer, I still had a bit of flexibility here and there. I would have loved to have had my gym session earlier on that day maybe, or to nip off a bit earlier, or that kind of stuff. I didn't have that flexibility now. I was there 9 to 5 and that was that to a degree. But now my lecturing role, obviously you have summers off, which I found difficult for a year or two, because I'm normally on the go, I'm normally on the move. I don't like just sitting on a couch all day watching
TV. And the structure was then set up?
I found it hard, from my Ulster Bank days to college. And funny enough, someone would say, oh God, how could you find that hard being off the summer? But I just like what I do with myself and what I do when I was looking at other things, looking at other business ideas, and I found it hard at the start. But now I'm better now. But I need to be busy. I need to be kept going. I don't like staying in bed late in the mornings. I'd rather be up and going and just have the mind a bit busy, I suppose, while doing the gym session, while doing your bit of swimming, while doing your mobility, your rehab. So that gave me great flexibility and great time to focus more on my career, on my puck and my touch. So the summertime for me is really revolved around the hurling and me doing a bit extra. Where other players, unfortunately, they're in office jobs, they're on the road, they're not having the same flexibility as I am. So a lot of them are teachers, and that makes life a bit easier for us.
That decision you made to leave the Ulster Bank and go back to college, where did that come from, or why did you do that? Because obviously it was a big decision. You're obviously leaving full-time employment, getting your wages to go back to college. Was a part of you sort of waking up to thinking, I have to start putting stuff in place for when I stop playing here? I need to start it.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't actually a hurling decision in terms of, great, if I went to lecture and I'd have summers off. Like, I knew of that job and I knew that could happen.
What are you lecturing in? Just
in coaching, nutrition and injuries.
Okay.
So that's what I'm lecturing in, and for LIT. But what I found was, what's the question actually again, Alan, on that? It was, why did I move on?
Yeah, the decision to go back to college. Because obviously, I think the reason I ask you that, Mick, is that sort of people just associate, like, sometimes with GA players just taking the handy job and doing the 9 to 5 and taking, if it's the rep job or the bank job. But obviously you made a conscious decision to sort of to roll that back and to do something for you. And I just think it's a really interesting talking point.
Yeah, I was about 27 at the time, so still in recession. Banking was getting tougher at the time because of people were in stress, and it was time for me to move on as well to maybe a manager role, because I like to be empowered. I like to move on and new tasks and new challenges. And obviously, I was looking at myself will I have a future in the banking role? And I was looking at other managers, and they were under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure as well. And financially, in accounting terms, it wasn't that great. So I was like, God, that's going to make life a bit harder for me too, I think. So I was kind of saying to myself, God, I want this. And I was always interested in strength and conditioning and training, like why do we do certain things maybe. And I would have spoke to Mick Dempsey probably on numerous occasions before even thinking about changing jobs, about kind of fitness and programs and gym programs, and I always want to know why we do it. And
you had a natural interest in it,
natural interest, yeah. And then I went just looking at a course, and I saw, and I wasn't sure exactly what it was, to be honest, either. Right. So I wasn't saying, I definitely want to do lecturing, this is what I want to do. I knew lecturing was an opportunity, but it's very hard to get into it. Would I like it? I said to myself 10, 15 years ago, I'd never do teaching. So I thought lecturing was never for me, to be honest, or teaching was never for me. So then I looked at the course down UL, and I saw there was a bit of nutrition in the masters, there was video analysis, there was S&C, biomechanics, psychology. And I said, God, it touches on all the areas maybe that I might like, but I wasn't sure exactly what area I wanted to go down still. So I said, this actually could be ideal for me. Yeah. And there's voluntary severance was given out, applied for that maybe, and spoke to a good few people, and a few people would ask me, even my family said, look, are you sure about this?
Yeah, it's a big decision to leave a role and go back.
Yeah, they never said, like, I don't think you should do this, but I had planned out in my head, look, I do this course. I'm after taking a small few quid with me. I was in bank for 5 years, but it's a few quid to pay for the masters. I was QFA qualified, so I could go back to banking if I wanted to. I could maybe go into insurance and other things as well. So I had a backup plan. Yeah. If this course didn't work out for me, if I didn't like it, or whatever it may be, if I couldn't get a job in the sporting industry, I could go back to banking. And the sporting industry, look, people would ask me, this sounds like a great idea. Like, everyone was really positive, to be fair, as well. But they'd say, and what kind of job would you get? And I was like, well, now, I genuinely very hard. I said, there is a bit of lecturing you can do maybe in it. That's one option. Maybe I was saying at the time, county teams were bringing in kind of directors of sport in their county with kind of looking after underage maybe, or looking after senior teams. So these job roles were evolving around that time for the first time, and I was kind of saying, I'd like a job like that maybe. But again, in Kilkenny it mightn't happen. And again, I suppose your everyday job then could be actually hurling and training and S&C, and then you're going training yourself then. And I said, God, that's a lot now going on in terms of...
Have you ever found that heavy going over the last while, or are you okay with it?
No, I've been okay with it because I've been, a lecturer on S&C and a lecturer on nutrition and that, so I find that good. But if I had to be actually doing coaching on a daily basis,
it's not sports.
Yeah, exactly. And not out in the field doing coaching on a daily basis, because a lot of them lads will have to actually do coaching as well during the summer in particular. Like Cathal Craig is up there and looking after Connacht. Yes. And he's hands on with the teams, development squads, and I definitely would find it a lot harder now to try and you need to get away from all that, So that's what I would have thought anyway. So yeah, to pick a job was difficult, but did the course, enjoyed it, and got me honours, got the thesis done. And then it was time to get a job, and I applied for a few places, and nothing happening there. I was meeting people. I'd be up in the morning at 8 o'clock, and I'd be home at 9 o'clock, and I'd be meeting everyone and anyone with business ideas, this, that, and the other. Talking to the county board about maybe setting up maybe something with underage teams and schools, and with S&C, and I was very, very passionate about maybe strength and conditioning in terms of resistance training programs for underage. To these boys we need to prevent injuries. We need to get these lads stronger, their bones stronger, joints stronger, their muscles stronger, because obviously hurling is a physical game as well. But more importantly, further to be injury prevention, because a lot of from my history, and again from what I've learned, when you're going in from 19, 20, 21 into the senior Kilkenny team, you got to have a bit of strength in it. You got to have good technique, especially if you're going into lifting weights and that. You need to have a number of years, to be honest, the foundation of that bit of core work, of the technique work, to have some bit of strength going in there, because a lot of us didn't have it, and I suppose we were rushing maybe to try and get up to those levels of strength in that. Maybe you're pushing the body maybe too quickly. So I was very passionate at that time. So that is happening now in Kilkenny, which is great over the last couple of years. They're doing a small bit on it, but other counties are probably ahead in that area, and I there's more roles like that coming in now as well, which is great to see, and that's going to involve more. I say every county board or every county will have some sort of strength and conditioning role for the underage. Systems or setups, and have academies, and it's for the health and the good of the players, really, I think. So thankfully I got a job in LAT and St. College for online stuff in lecturing, and again I wasn't sure would I like it or not. And even remember looking over notes for the first few weeks, and it's like, oh God, I don't know, can I do this? I was questioning myself, and spoke to one of the girls, who was actually Claire Brady, who was a lecturer at the time. She goes, you'll be fine, you'll be well able for this, because it was completely new to me, and just got up and did it. And one thing that really helped me for my lecturing was, I used to do medals presentations over the years, be asked to do it, or do a motivation talk, bits and pieces of that. And even though I'd be highly nervous doing it, and maybe not wanting to do something, maybe, but I said, look, I'll do it anyway. And that put me out there, talking to people, trying to learn off maybe a bit of a speech maybe, or just giving those talks, and that gave me confidence, to be honest. And even though I was massively nervous doing it, afterwards I'd feel great about it. And so I think that helped me massively to actually go on and present, because some people actually just cannot talk in front of people, to just not able to do it. And it's practice, it's putting yourself in that uncomfortable position, or taking yourself out of comfort zone, which a lot of people need to do. And I think I learned a lot from that, to be honest, just doing that medals presentations.
No, that's because sometimes we forget about sort of the little things that you get exposed to, and even another example of that is like going to do your media duties as part of a team or whatever. You just get used to speaking your thoughts in front of a group or whatever. I suppose you referenced getting out of your comfort zone there, and it's clearly, like, since going back to college, I think that's something you're constantly chipping away at a little bit yourself. I know that you've set up Coach Finder as well with Anthony Cunningham, isn't it?
Yes.
So might tell us a little bit about what that is in terms of...
Yeah, just a quick snapshot of what I suppose we and Anthony met each other properly at the All-Stars 2015. I would have met him after one of the All-Irelands 2014, I think, or 15 maybe, after the All-Ireland, when we played him. I met him in the Players' Lounge afterwards, and just chatting to him. I happened to be standing beside him. Seemed like a nice fella, and then we're on the All-Stars trip, and funny enough, I was sitting beside his wife on the way over to Dallas. And I didn't realise it was his wife for a few minutes, and then she goes, "Why I'm Anthony Cunningham's wife and me?" And we're like, "Oh, how are things?" Whatever. And we're having a chat and just having a bit of crack.
Oh, you were behaving yourself, are you?
We're having a bit of crack, and it's funny enough, after 2 or 3 days, I got very friendly with me and Anthony, and she was like saying, "God above, all you Kilkenny lads, you're all actually sound, I thought I wouldn't like any of you," she was saying. And got fierce with Anthony, and he was on about the club and stuff, and people onto him about managers and who you think for this job, and would someone do be good for this number for teams and so forth. And I was saying, I was thinking something similar a few years back, but I was thinking, how would you set it up, or how would you do it? And he was like, saying maybe a website. And then I was like, yeah. And then that was it. And then for about 2 or 3 days, that was in my head, because I love business talk, love thinking about things and creating ideas. But maybe I mightn't be that great of delivering it. Thinking is one thing, but actually delivering is another. So then, I remember met him in the airport and said, look, let's actually have a chat about this when we go home. And I said, I've been thinking about it a bit more maybe, and this kind of a matching kind of a service, a recruitment service could actually work. So then we came home and we sent out a few emails, a few surveys to actually see, first of all, is there a need for this? Because again, we didn't want to be setting up something that there was no point to, and there was a need for it from what we found. So we set up a website basically where clubs can come on, register their details, looking for an S&C coach or a manager or a physio or a nutritionist or just a one session with someone. They'll register details, what exactly they want. Coaches will register with us as well who are looking for jobs, who are looking for these one-off sessions. It can be a psychologist, it can be a nutritionist, a physio. And again, if they like a particular job, they can just apply for it now online. If the club likes their CV, likes what they see, they will basically accept them, have a chat, have an interview maybe, and go from there. So that's the service we're doing. We've changed the website around now to make it more streamlined, to make it easier.
What is the website?
It's www.coachfinder.club.
Okay.
And again, we're trying to get out there more. Obviously, a lot of clubs and people are not aware of it. So again, we're at the early stages, but the website now is pretty good, and the background is very, very strong to it now, where it'll make it a lot more streamlined for them to meet up and to see who's out there. And because a lot of time you might, no offense to managers, and a lot of people actually are going away from management because there's so much pressure now involved in it.
Absolutely.
But the same people probably go around to different clubs and stuff.
Circuits.
And we have a lot of strong people coming through colleges now who are unaware of, because S&C has gone really big now. So we have access to them. I'd have access to a lot of them in LIT, seeing them coming through, and they're top dollar. They know the needs of players. They know about the coaching, the bit of psychology, the nutrition. So they know elements of that. You still will need other people as well and other specialists. But it's good that that's coming through. And I think clubs now, when people are realising, okay, we need someone here who actually has a qualification.
Yeah, the classic thing was always, you get a club chairman or manager ring someone and says, do you know someone? And then you get put in touch with someone, and just because they're the person you got in touch with, you sort of go with them.
Exactly.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm just trying to read between the lines, but it's actually trying to help the clubs find the right person for them. Person,
yeah. And the coach to find the right club for them as well. Like, as in, you could have 10 maybe jobs there with different clubs, but and maybe 3 or 4 of them around your area, or maybe it's a youth development that you're looking for. It's a younger team and you want to go in maybe and try and progress these younger players. So it's exactly it's what meets your needs, which is the key to this thing. And you will still have people, obviously, word of mouth and stuff, and that's fine, and that's good, and probably will be committees set up. But I think this website really will help a lot more with clubs and with S&C coaches, and picking the right people who have the qualifications, because there's no point saying, that fella won a couple of All-Irelands there back in the day. Like, that day is long gone. You have younger lads coming through now who know their stuff. Coaching, no one can actually just step up and coach. You need to actually be educated in it now, in terms of what you're saying, your coaching cues, how you present yourself, how you talk, how you communicate. So from there, myself and Anthony decided, like, look, the core element of our business is matching up people with the clubs. But now we're saying, look, they need to be coached now as well. So we have a mentorship program set up. It's online it's online in terms of advertising it on the website. We have a form there you can fill out, basically about your strengths and weaknesses, and a bit about yourself and where you can improve in that. And basically, if you want to meet myself or Anthony, we'll meet them, go through basically how to improve your communication skills, how to give proper feedback to players, how to improve your coaching, how to do one-on-one meetings. So again, people are not educated on it. And so this is a small snapshot, maybe a small workshop of doing that mentorship program. And a lot of it's pictures, and it's easy to understand. And again, the way we'll deliver it will be easy and even a bit of fun, to be honest. So that's another product we're looking at. There's 2 more products as well. We have a leadership workshop now happening as well. My background now, I'm upskilling in leadership at the moment. I've done a Jim Madden program with a GPA on leadership. Did that in 2016. Went on from there to do an accreditation of a cert in Maynooth in leadership, so that's complete now as well. And now in September coming now, I'm starting a PhD in leadership and coaching. So I'm revolving myself around that area of coaching and leadership. It's a niche there that I love, I like, I'm passionate about. So I'm looking forward to that 4-year study, which is going to take a bit of time. But again, I do want to coach when I'm older. So for me, this ties in lovely with my lecturing career, because obviously you do need a PhD now for lecturing. It ties in with doing some leadership talks with corporate companies. So we're dealing with one company now in Dublin where we've actually workshops set up at the end of September. So again, that day will consist of leadership kind of activities, of team building, of trust, of communication. So whatever the company is lacking, we will build activities around that, where people will come together, managers, and actually help them, I suppose, help build relationships, really. I'll do a presentation on culture and leadership through kind of sport and business, because I have a business studies background as well, 4 years a degree done down in Cork, and as well as that, you can have a brainstorm as well about the values of a company. So companies are growing quite quickly now, and maybe they need to just really look at maybe the leaders in groups, try and develop leaders, unlock potential in certain employees, because again, there are certain things you can unlock from employees, and there's plenty of talent within companies, and it's just a matter of maybe getting the best out of them. So we want to invest maybe in companies. And the last thing then we're doing is youth development workshops. We've done a few of them already, done 2 or 3 in Galway, 1 or 2 in Offaly, where basically again we're putting in programs for younger players. Again, it's resistant exercise, it's bodyweight exercises normally, getting the technique right, the foam rolling, the mobility, all that's very, very important. The nutrition, like getting the nutrition at that age is key, is great. Those exercises are going to be great. A bit about psychology maybe, and a bit about the skills and coaching. So and we can help mentors as well, maybe about their coaching, and come up with different drills maybe in wall ball kind of games and stuff. So we're in that area at the moment, and
sounds great.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's going to evolve. It's going to get better. There's a lot on, to be honest, as well. So
I was going to say,
I probably need to be careful, because I can take on a lot of times. But I think everything is in the one area for me, like the leadership, the coaching. Obviously, I have the lecturing there then as well. With that, we've Coach Finder helping clubs, which I'm doing already. I'm hurling in that space as well. I'm massively interested in coaching and how all that works. So it's all in one area with me, and it all is interlinked. So it's good. It's a good place to be.
How satisfying it? Like, maybe satisfying is not the right word, but to be able to take, say, the theory of leadership that you learn, or the theory of business, and help actually a wider group understand it through maybe lessons that you've learned through sport, which I imagine is a good chunk of it, is it? Because I think a lot of people, I know from my own experience, a lot of people relate to the sport and stories and metaphors and sort of translating it across. Is that satisfying to be able to do that and sort of fuse the two together?
No, love it. That's why I'm probably more passionate about than anything, is actually delivering kind of them workshops to corporate companies where you can help them understand it better and to learn and just to give them the knowledge. I've been lecturing the last 3 years, so I've seen what kind of has worked with students in terms of them actually taking in information, because there's no point me yapping there for an hour talking about all sorts of stuff. You need to be interactive. Pictures are always good. I love animations as well for presentations where you have things flying in because you're keeping the person's attention. The attention span of a human is 7 seconds. A goldfish is 9 seconds. A goldfish is more of a better attention span than a human. So within 7 or 8 seconds, someone will switch off. And that's the thing. So we need to keep their attention. So that's why the presentation I feel is quite good that way. And it's true sport, it's true rugby, it's true. I've read autobiographies from different players, my own experience through Kilkenny, some stories like that maybe as well. Obviously, we have Brian Cody, who's the best manager of all time. Again, learning from him, learning from different coaches, from different books. As I said again, I've done a lot of reading, so it's all that. It's just not from my own experience, from reading other books. And to be honest, that's going to continue. You're always evolving, you're always learning, and your philosophy will probably change the whole time, to be honest, of coaching or whatever it may be. So I really like that, and that's the area I'm really passionate about more than anything, is actually educating people about how to talk to someone, how to actually get them to learn a new skill maybe, and if you're doing something wrong, how do you go about it? How do you actually, you don't come out and say, look, you're doing this wrong, you need to do this. Like, that's the worst thing you could do. You got to say, Alan, how did you find that? And you'd say, look, I struggle in this area. Well, how do you think you can actually make that better? And then you might direct them a small bit in that way. And if you can actually get the answer yourself, you will retain that for longer. You retain that for 2 or 3 weeks longer than me telling you the answer. You'll forget that within a day or two. So once you can actually understand it in your own brain, that's when you will keep that for longer, and that's when you're adding value to people. So there's no point telling them what to do, or telling them the values of a business. Employees got to come up with values. They got to feel like, look, this is our business. We're empowered and we want to excel in the business. So it's all that kind of area which I love. And as I said, very passionate.
The last thing I was just going to ask you about was, because I heard on a previous interview that you did a couple of weeks ago on News Talk, it was around you, and you directly referenced sort of the life coach through the GPA leadership program that you mentioned. Because the reason that I bring it up is that it goes back to people's perceptions of, say, a Kilkenny All-Ireland winner or Dublin football or a Leitrim County player, whatever it may be. But they just think like, leader, and you are. But also there is it's a constant process of adding to yourself. And I suppose trying to help people understand that sort of the importance of sort of self-awareness and asking yourself some questions, get yourself better. Was that beneficial to you? Sorry, I rambled on a bit that question, but you get what I'm getting at?
No, I do, no, without a doubt. Like I would have spoke that day about, I didn't require the GPA back in 06 to 2010 because, to be honest, they're only still up maybe about just up in 02, so there are 4 years in existence when I came in 06, still relatively new, wasn't recognised by the GA maybe until later on, maybe 08 or 09, I'm not certain on the date, but anyway. But the GPA obviously, they're there for advice and that, and I always found, look, that was good to have, and to be honest, when I actually did make the change from Ulster Bank to actually leaving it and going to do a master's, I did speak to the GPA. I did speak to them about what they thought of this idea maybe, and met with one of the life coaches at the time actually to go through a few bits and pieces, and he knew straight away from what I was talking, like, look, you want to do this. Look, I can see it. And sometimes you need to be taught that. Like, you're talking it, and somebody say, look, I can see it from you. You're passionate. You might have a love for this, and this is definitely worth the risk. And you have a backup plan. So I found that good in terms of changing careers. And obviously, then over the that went on. That was 2013. And the GPA for me was evolving more and more and more in terms of their services that they were offering, in terms of the mental support too for players, in terms of if you're going through a bit of stress, a bad time, even stress of playing hurling or Gaelic football, like that's a lot of players go through that in terms of nerves, and it's good to have someone there maybe to fall back on. So for me, it's a security to have that. And again, these things can be costly, but it's actually free for the GPA players, and that's excellent to have, because obviously money can be strapped to some people. And again, you want it confidential as well. You might want to tell a whole lot of people, and that's fine. But for me, then really in 2015, when I saw that leadership course, Jim Madden, that's when really I kind of dived into the whole thing and started realizing, okay, these are great these are great services here that are being offered. I need to be utilising these more. I was given a life coach during that process as well. And again, I got to find out more about myself. I did a personality test with Fran as well. And again, even though I knew bits and pieces about myself, to hear it from him and to see it actually, it's better. And I could understand myself better. I could understand myself, my weaknesses, my strengths. And again, that self-reflection of what I need to do better. What I need to do better in meetings. Maybe I need to kind of hold back a bit. I do get quite passionate about things, but don't let it blind me. So I learned loads through that personality test, through talking to Fran, to find out more about myself, where and what I want to do. And I went on to do that accreditation for the leadership in Maynooth. And now here I am doing a PhD in September. And don't be jumping into a career just for the sake of it, because you don't know when you're going to get injured. You don't know when you're going to retire. You might be told you're not on the panel next year, and here you are in a job that you don't like. And where the hell am I going to go? And you fall into a hole, and you're lost. And I know the GPA are still there and they will still guide you, but life is a hell of a lot harder. A lot more doors are going to be closed. So it's important that you find a career that's right for you, because that will create happiness. If you're happy in your work life, in your everyday life, your hurling or your Gaelic football will obviously benefit from that as well. And that's proven. That's a stat actually I think that Dermot Early had from an AFL study where they actually looked into it, and players are actually striving on the field because their family life or their personal lifestyle is in a good way.
Well, I think that's the perfect note to end on. I just want to say thanks a million for your honesty and for your insight there over the last hour or so. I think the reason I sort of brought up that question at the end is particularly true. There's people everywhere that aren't enjoying their job or afraid to make a change, and sometimes it is about finding someone to trust, to talk to, and that's job, that's your mental health. If that's relationship, sometimes you just need to go and have a chat to someone, and it's okay to do that. But no, just thanks a million. So I wish you the best of luck with everything over the coming months and into next year. It says for anyone that's from the coach finder that you mentioned earlier on, that's coachfinder.club.
Yeah.
So they can check that out there. And as I said, just straight up, thanks a million. I wish you nothing but the best. And it sounds like it's an exciting couple of months and a few years ahead of you. And I love the point you made that your playing career is a certain window, but your life also goes on a lot after that. And it sounds like you're in a good space, and the best of luck with it all.
Cheers, then.
100%. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Before you pop those earphones out and stop listening, I have one or two things that I'd love to run by you. First of all, I just want to thank Mick Fennelly again for his honesty and his insight. The Kilkenny team is a group that has fascinated me over the years, and it was just so enjoyable to hear from such an important part of that group about what it takes to be an individual and survive and thrive in such a competitive environment. If you've made it this far, I'm hoping you are now a fan of the Real Talks podcast and the unique insight we try to bring you each week. With that in mind, I have a small favour to ask. This is a tiny independent operation, and by tiny, I mean I go and meet the lads with a recorder and two microphones that fit into an old Cavan boot bag of mine. So if you've liked this interview, or any of the previous 11 for that matter, with the likes of Kevin McMenamin, Brendan Marr, Aidan McGee, Cora Staunton, please just take a second to pop them into a WhatsApp group or pass it on to a friend to help us spread the word. At Real Talks, we're all about quality over quantity, and that's why you never see us using sound bites out of context or trying to trick people into listening by using clickbait tactics. We try our best to make good content, so you choose to listen to it. And with that in mind, I just want to thank every single person who has helped us now rack up over 37,000 plays from over 80 countries, including the likes of Cambodia, Cuba and Japan. It's just crazy every time I think of that. But thanks to each and every one who's helped make this happen and who's helping it grow in popularity. My name is Alan O'Mara, and you've been listening to episode 12 of the Real Talks podcast.